All right, now that I've scared you about evangelism, can't wait to get to this next piece. But no, seriously, utilize the resources that are there for you. Evangelism isn't as scary as we think. At least it doesn't have to be. Especially some of you guys, you kind of have a gift naturally. And as you get involved in small groups and you start doing things, you'll realize that, okay, wow, it just sort of comes naturally to me. Consider yourself blessed. I don't necessarily have that gift, but I'm passionate for God. And so therefore, I'm going to do all I can to help make God known to those who live as if he doesn't exist. And this next healthy habit is one of the best ways of doing that. And this is one of the things that, again, when I think of church, I think this is just the obvious thing of this is one of the reasons we exist. And it's serving the needy. So healthy habit number 8, serve the needy. And really what we're doing is we're being a witness by showing others the love of Jesus. Now, this is something that's a little bit more in vogue nowadays in this generation. Like we kind of realize that there's a lot of problems out there. There's a lot of people in need. And so taking care of the poor, thankfully, is a little bit more in. But the reality is it doesn't take much to look around and see how big the needs truly are. And one of our passions at Manna Church is to really be the hands and feet of Christ in our community. And the way that we're going to be able to reach the needs and meet the needs of our community is through the passions and dreams that God puts in your heart. And we'll talk more about this as we get through the growth track. But you know, that's kind of one of our dreams, one of the ways we're designed is, you know, we really believe that God has given us the resources and the wisdom and the different things to be able to truly take care of those in our community in need. And so Matthew 5:16, we kind of get this from the scripture. He says, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. The reality is when we help those in need, it points people directly to the Father. Because we're giving of ourselves, we're giving of, I mean, even those who may not be quote unquote Christian, but they're radically generous or they're always serving the needy, man, we admire those people. And there's something about those people that make us think at least of God, because they're doing so much for people that can't really give them anything in return. In Matthew 25, this is great, just this picture. I love this picture. He says, for I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me. I was in prison and you came to visit me. Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. What God is saying, and he says this other places in Scripture, we don't have time to get into it all right now, but I would encourage you to study this in Scripture. But what God says is basically when we give to those in need, we are giving directly to him. In fact, in Proverbs it talks about, you know, when we provide for the needs of those in need, it's like we are loaning to the Lord and he always repays his debts. It's just this great picture that Jesus has given them, because they even said, God, when did we do this? Like, when did we don't remember feeding you or giving you water or any of that kind of stuff. And he says every time he did it to somebody, no matter how kind of low on the societal totem pole they were, how in need they were, every time you did that, you did it for me. And this goes right along the line with value number 2 of that whole kind of love each other. Like, we have to care about other people oftentimes more than we care about ourselves. If we can't look at others and see the needs of others, if we can't see beyond our own needs, then we really don't have much of a chance to change the world. And we don't have much of a chance to really be obedient to what God says in the scripture, which is to help those in need. I mean, could it be that God gives us resources for the purpose of going out and helping others? I kind of think that that's a biblical idea. And I really feel like if you study it, you're going to see that pattern in scripture. In fact, in Isaiah 1, even in the Old Testament, he goes, learn to do good, seek justice, correct oppression, bring justice to the fatherless, and plead the widow's cause. God has this theme of he hates injustice. And we look around today and there is so much injustice, it can almost lead people to think, well, you know, God doesn't exist. In fact, I know someone really close to me who they lost their faith in Vietnam because they just saw all these things happen and they couldn't believe that this good God could exist and be in control somehow, and yet all these people dying needlessly in what they were feeling and all that. And so they just decided to stop trying to follow God. And the reality is, if we just look at what's around us, we can be tempted to have that same thought. But if we can look at scripture and look at history and just recognize patterns, we can see that time after time after time after time, God does allow certain things to happen because, one, he wants to give us opportunities to reflect his character and to shine his light. But then too, he's usually preparing something for him to be glorified through. And his church is who he loves to use to do that more than anything. His bride, he loves to put us on a pedestal so that all those who can look and say, man, okay, look at that. That's a city on a hill. They're doing something, and we can inspire them to action. I love how James puts it here. He says, look, religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this: to look after orphans and widows in their distress and to keep oneself by being polluted by the world. The world today tells you need to keep everything you earn. Don't give anything away. Keep it, keep it, keep it. There's not enough. There's just, the economy's not strong, all these different things. But the reality is the more we give, the more we reflect the character of God. Nobody can outgive God. And when I can learn to live in a place where the things that I possess, I don't just try to hide them and hoard them and keep them to myself, but I actually open up my hands to kind of give to those in need. Well, the beautiful thing is when I live like this, not only am I able to give away, but I'm also able to receive. And God can pour back to me when I live like this. But if I'm like this, even what little I have, I'm going to consume it somehow, but I leave no room for anyone to give anything else. And so when we talk about, serving the needy, being a witness by showing others the love of Jesus, we're not just talking about, the homeless in the street. Yes, that's big, but there are a lot of people in our community with needs. We got a lot of broke college students, all right? Invite them over for a meal. Serve them in that capacity. They will love you for it, and I promise you will have a chance to transform a life. I remember, I'll save some of the stories as we get to the growth track because I want to give you guys a chance to interact on this and talk on this because there's just a lot here. But understand, one of the greatest habits you can build is to serve the needy, to prepare your heart to say, you know what, I want to live generously. I want to live to give. I want to be able to be somebody marked by looking out for the needs of others, whether it's an emotional need, a financial need, whatever type of need it is. I believe God has called us as a church to really step into the needs of our community and say we can be Jesus in this place. What do you think?